have a feeling it's going to clean up pretty quickly. I could just say this: they want to make it. They want to make it. And I probably hurt our little negotiation. It gives them a little impetus to say, "Well, I wish you didn't say that." But they said yesterday that we weren't negotiating with them, and now they admit that we were negotiating with them. So they want to make a deal. The reason they want to make a deal is they have been just beat.
Is the Friday deadline for Iran, is that pushed back now, or if not?
I don't know yet. I don't know. Mr. Witkoff and JD and Jared will tell me whether or not they think it's going along, and if it's not going along, maybe not. And we have a lot of time. You know what? It's a day. In Trump time, a day, you know what it is? That's an eternity. We're doing something outside that the Greeks would be very proud of. We're building one of the most beautiful ballrooms anywhere in the world. And we have beautiful columns, and we have beautiful sculpture, and we have beautiful... And they said it couldn't be done in this modern day, but we have very talented people. I call it latent talent. We have some really incredible talents. They've been wanting a ballroom for 150 years. This is their ballroom, as the first ballroom. This will serve for cocktails now, and we'll be able to do it right. But we used to, when a dignitary came, like His Eminence, they'd have a tent on the lawn, and when it rained, you were in deep trouble because the water would gather under the tent, and it was not pretty when you would see the president of a major country, the prime minister, or somebody of great religious faith where you had thousands of people, and the water was over their shoes. It didn't play well for the women. It was not a good situation. So we're taking, and by the way, see that beautiful gold curtain? Behind that is a knockout panel. And when we do knock out that panel, it'll be opened in about a year and a half, maybe less. I build on time, on budget. I build actually faster than time and under budget, unlike the Federal Reserve. And right there is going to be the entrance. It'll be a beautiful, magnificent tunnel to the building, and it's going to be something that they've wanted. Other presidents have wanted this for literally 150 years. We never had it in the White House. We had the UK say that we'll send. This is 3 weeks ago. We'll send our aircraft carriers, which aren't the best aircraft carriers. They're toys compared to what we have. But we'll send our aircraft carrier when the war's over. So don't bother. We don't need it. No, we don't need it. We don't need that.
Are we going to war with Cuba next? This is what the president had to say earlier this month.
He's doing some job, and your next one is going to be, we want to do that special Cuba. He's waiting, but he says, let's get this one finished first. We could do them all at the same time, but bad things happen. If you watch countries over the years, you do them all too fast.
So it's next on his list for something. Why Cuba?
It's a beautiful island, great weather. They're not in a hurricane zone, which is nice for a change, you know.
So there must be something apart from the beautiful weather that's motivating this. Why does the president feel he has a free hand in Cuba?
Taking Cuba, I mean, whether I free it, take it, I can do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth?
Okay, but what is driving this? And where are we in a potential run-up to war with Cuba? First of all, a little primer on this island, which is home to about 9 to 11 million people. Most people in this country don't know a lot about Cuba, apart from the fact that Cuba makes a remarkably good cigar.
Lieutenant, feeling is mutual. Nice to meet you, too. Cuban?
No, Dutch-Irish. My father was from Wales.
Oh. Sit down.
But Cuba is a relatively poor country. It is ruled by a ruthless communist dictatorship for the last half century. That country has been run by 2 brothers, Fidel and Raul Castro. Fidel Castro is now dead. Raul Castro is in his mid-90s. But they led a revolution in 1953 that took power from Fulgencio Batista, who was the president of Cuba prior to the communist takeover of that island nation. The economy is largely agricultural. There's a strong tourist economy. It has been a flashpoint between the United States and Russia for years because it has been viewed as a communist satellite, as essentially a client of the Soviet Union and now Russia. for decades. We came very close to going to war with the Soviet Union over Cuba. You might remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, when we blockaded that nation to prevent offensive missiles from being placed by the Soviet Union in Cuba. A blockade used to be a big deal.
Bob, if we go ahead with these airstrikes, you know what it'll come to in the end. There has got to be something else. Give it to me. I don't care how crazy, inadequate, or stupid it sounds. Give it to me.
6 months ago, we gamed out a scenario. It's slow, it doesn't get rid of the missiles, it's got a lot of drawbacks. The scenario calls for a blockade of Cuba.
But now there's a blockade in place. The United States is blockading oil going to Cuba with barely a notice, maybe because there's so much else going on, maybe because we're in a full, blown-out war with Iran. But nonetheless, it's been hugely consequential for Cuba. For the last 3 months, they have not been able to get any oil imports to that country, heavily dependent on oil from other nations. And as a result, there have been nationwide power outages repeatedly. And in the next week, there could be yet another confrontation with the Russians over Cuba because there was a Russian oil tanker on its way to provide oil to Cuba right now. So does the United States have a plan for how we're going to deal with that? Judging from the lack of war planning when it came to Iran, I don't know that we can have a lot of confidence, but one thing I think we can be confident of, and that is that Russia has a plan here.
What's his plan?
His plan?
Russians don't take a dump, son, without a plan.
So things are coming to a head in Cuba. What is the U.S. objective? Again, not particularly clear. Very similar to the ambiguity around Venezuela when we went in and grabbed Nicolas Maduro and took him out of the country to face charges, and then simply installed Maduro's number 2 hench person, Delcy Rodriguez, who is now running the country. We did, I guess, secure some opportunity for American oil companies in Venezuela, but is that what freedom fighters and others who've been rallying to the cause of Venezuela were after? That is just more money for the American oil industry? I thought it was about something bigger, including the freedom of the people of Venezuela and releasing dissidents from jail, allowing the Venezuelan people to pick their own leaders. The one who won the last election in Venezuela, Maria Corina Machado, and also won a Nobel Prize, has not been allowed to take power in Venezuela. So we just dumped the number 1 dictator for the number 2 dictator. Is that the goal in Cuba, or is it something more akin to Iran? Not completely clear. But who's running Cuba now anyway? Well, ostensibly, it's this guy. That's Miguel Diaz-Canel. He was handpicked by Raul Castro as his successor. But here's the thing, he is widely considered to be just a figurehead. He basically gets his instructions distilled from folks like Raul Castro, who, although 94, still exerts a great influence over the affairs of the Cuban government. And that Cuban regime is just as despotic as ever. Cuban dissidents are locked up. There is no real freedom of speech or association in Cuba. It is an awful communist dictatorial regime that has failed to provide for its people. Getting rid of him, will that solve the problem? Well, who are the other candidates to replace him? Who is the Delcy Rodriguez in Cuba, and would they make much of a difference to the Cuban people? Well, one of the potential successors is this guy. That's Oscar Perez Olivia Fraga. He was recently made Deputy Prime Minister and given a seat in the National Assembly. That's a prerequisite to becoming the president in Cuba. Right now, his portfolio involves foreign trade, but critically, he's also the grandnephew of the Castros. One other possibility is Manuel Marrero Cruz. He is the current prime minister, but neither of these choices would mark any significant change to the leadership of Cuba. Marrero Cruz has ties to the military. He's been the director of tourism. No indication that he is some kind of a reformer that would substantially change the quality of life for most Cubans. So who is our interlocutor in whatever negotiations are going on? between the U.S. and Cuba? Well, it's Raul Castro. Not the 94-year-old Raul Castro, but his grandson, Raul Castro, who also serves as his personal bodyguard. That's not likely to lead to significant change for the Cuban people. So hard to see where this is all heading, what our objectives are, whether we have any real chance of getting rid of this terrible regime in Cuba. If we could, that would be wonderful for the Cuban people. Do we want to go to war with Cuba in order to accomplish that? No. There are, I think, better approaches to trying to change the nature of the Cuban leadership than initiating another war in another place in the world. We're pretty busy with the war we have going on right now. So this puts the U.S. in a very tricky position. We certainly raised a lot of expectations among the Cuban people about what we'll do, what we're prepared to do. There are very forceful advocates within the administration for regime change in Cuba, including our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. But nevertheless, it's unclear how we accomplish this. It's unclear whether the president really has any more specific plan for Cuba's future than he did for Iran's future, and we're seeing already that conflict spiral out of control. But one thing is absolutely clear, and that is Donald Trump wants to go down in history as the president that took Cuba, whatever that means. Here's the president talking about taking Cuba.
I do believe I'll be the honor of having the honor of taking Cuba. That's a big honor. Taking Cuba in some form.
So the bottom line for me is I would love to see a different kind of Cuban government. I'd love to see this brutal communist dictatorship finally come to an end. The Cuban people are amazing and talented, and that island could really prosper under better, different leadership. But I don't want to see American boots on the ground in Cuba. I don't want to see us bombing Cuba. I don't want to see us enter into another war with some ill-defined plan to take the country or regime change. And at this point, I have little confidence that the president knows what he's doing or even how to accomplish it. So thanks for watching tonight's video. We started doing these nightly videos as a way of identifying something really important that happened today or this week, what we should make of it, and how we can fight back. As you can see, I like to include movie clips. If you have any suggestions for other movie clips I should include in future videos, please share them with us. And thank you for following.